go. All right, so why poetry?
Miss Joshua, she was my 11th and 12th grade English lit teacher. And so I remember it was 2001. Whenever my junior year was, she kept me after class one time. And she talked to me about a writing assignment. She said, you can write. I said, okay, cool. So then she said, hey, I need you to write this. It's not extra credit or nothing, it's for me. You 15, 16 years old. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I did it reluctantly, but when she gave me feedback, it kind of sparked my interest in writing. And then we just went from writing short stories to poetry, and she just kept pinging me. Like, she was on me before anything. Like, I didn't know I had the gift for any of that. So, I mean, once she tapped into me, it was just full throttle from there. And then just over the years, I just kept getting better and better to the point where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm. And what grade was that?
Started 11th grade.
11th grade?
Yep, black educator, Miss Deborah Joshua, East Chicago Central High School. That's my heart right there. So
I feel like,
yeah.
That's what's up. And then that's another thing. You don't really know about those Midwest
Midwest
boys. We a problem.
Yeah, you already know.
A whole problem out here. So, Chicago. So you come out here by way of Chicago.
So yeah, East Chicago, Indiana. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much the same thing. It's right on the border.
Yeah.
5 minutes from the shot. So we
Yeah.
grew up with them. They was on our side. We was on their side. Pretty much same problems when they on Chicago. Same problems in Northwest Indiana. So, you know.
That's like, cause I'm from Milwaukee. So
Yeah, so that's just an hour up the road.
It's
So
literally right up the
same
street.
thing.
So I get it. That whole circular thing, and a lot of people don't know is you trace the Middle Passage to when people come from the South. They make their way right on up there, and there's a lot of us that come directly from that. So yeah, that's good. But on the subject of black educators, I feel like they're so important. They're so important to us because when you have someone who sees something in you and decide to pour into you, it changes you in ways that you didn't even realize. I think it's very important. So shout out to her, because I think back on my teachers, and I didn't really have too many black teachers at all. But when I did, you could feel the difference.
See, I got lucky because from kindergarten to 12th grade, I had 10. Like, let me see. Miss Dawson in kindergarten, Miss Mabry in 3rd grade, Miss Penn in 4th grade, Miss Gear in 5th grade, Miss Price 6th grade, God rest her soul. 7th grade, I had Mr. Watson. He was my only black male teacher, but he had a big impact. Then I had Miss Martin, Miss McKinley in 8th grade, and then Miss Thomas in 9th grade, and Miss Joshua. So I got lucky, but she was it's funny how it's like it trickles up. Like, if she was like, the mountaintop was her, and she was the last stop, and like she pulled everything out of me because she really challenged me. And I know being a black kid in the inner city, like having that representation in the classroom, you don't think about it when you're young, but when you get grown and see it, it's like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And I think also, like, because there's a component of where they can relate.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They see in you, and plus they're older than you, so they know what's to come.
Yep.
And they can kind of guide and nurture those gifts in you before the world kind of tarnishes them.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Do you still have any contact with any of your teachers, or?
I talked to Mr. Watson. I talked to him. That was my 7th grade teacher I told you about. Miss Joshua, and I've been trying to reach her for God knows how long.
Yeah.
You know, she's still ticking, that I do know. But Mr. Watson, he's probably he's the only one right now. But if I can get in touch with Miss Joshua, I really want her to be at a performance one day. Like, that's my dream before she leave Earth. So yeah, but
I feel like you can make that happen. You put that out there. I think that full circle moment, like, yeah.
I hope so, man. And I want like a major show, like, nothing against like coffee shops and open mic, but just doing some of the venues I've done. I just want to see her in the crowd with like thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, yo, that's her right
here.
Yeah,
I feel that.
Yeah, like, you know, it's easy to get motivated by fine women in the audience or something, but like when you see the person who like jump started everything for you, like
Yeah.
that's a whole different level of motivation. So
Yeah.
that's my wish right there.
Now,
Real talk.
I want that for you. I
Yeah.
want that for you. Like, that's amazing. So she got you. Do you remember what the first assignment was she asked you to do?
She told me, she said, I want you to write a 15-page story on anything and use people in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a couple of us on the football team, just homies. So I wrote some stupid, crazy mess, just something that you would read in high school. Just been like, okay, I read it. And when I was done, she read it. She was like passing around class. So I passed around class. Everybody was laughing. Most of them was laughing at me. 'Cause I was like, hey, boy, you stupid. Like,
Yeah.
and she asked me how did I feel. I was like, felt kind of good. You know, they enjoyed it. And she was like, yeah, you gonna keep going. And it was just like, from there, it was just be at home writing notebooks. Like, and I was nervous to show my parents because it's kind of like, I didn't want them to know I was doing this. So like, be at home up late night writing, tuck my notebooks away. So yeah, that 15-page paper set it off.
That's fire because I think that's something also we don't talk about a lot. How when you grow up in the inner city and you grow up in certain environments, you instinctively hide your talent.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we do that.
I think it's because when we come from a place like where we from, people kind of shun if it's not sports or rap. And if you do sing, you better be a girl, you know, because you know if you a dude sing, they look at you as soft or something. So I think for any city kids, like we get so consumed by what we see on TV with the music, and then sports, got to get sports, make it out, come buy mama a house and buy the block up and all that. So I think we're just hypnotized into that to think that anything else is like wrong, it's soft, it's like it's not the norm. So that's what I personally think.
I feel that. I agree with that. And I think it's also important, though, because when you do lean into that, you provide a perspective that we don't often see.
True.
A perspective that, though, is very relative to a lot of people. Like, they can, very relatable to a lot of people. They can relate to it. But these are stories nobody tells because the people who've lived those stories generally don't end up in a space to speak about those stories. So, I think that's fire. And speaking of stories, like, I think that 15-page assignment has grown into what we had 11.
Yeah, 11 books.
11 books now.
Yeah.
Like from 15 pages to 11 books right now.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. And I'm looking like, and it's not like it's just poetry book. It's like there's actual
novels. Yeah.
Novels. You know what I mean? Those are stories that like you read the book and then it's like, oh, okay. I'm not. Because when we think of novels and things like that, a lot of times in the past, we aren't who came to mind.
Yeah.
And you are a part of changing that narrative. And where do you draw from when you go to those novels? Like, where do you draw from? For example, people may not know, congratulations, you're now retired.
Done with that, man.
Yeah, you're now retired, you're now out.
Yeah.
But even writing about that aspect of being in the Navy, like things that you see coming from where you come from, it provides a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like you, because I was in too. Some people don't know I was in too, but it's like you go there and when you experience things, you're not experiencing them from the lens that a lot of people are experiencing them. You're experiencing them from, damn, I came from this, and now I'm seeing all these things, and instead of me seeing this thing. And here's my perspective of it. I have an entire new, like, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know that this was an option.
Yeah.
Well, how did that impact you, going to the Navy? What made you go?
So, true story. My guidance counselor, Miss Hayes, another black educator, it was some, inner city schools got always these programs get you to school. So she said, all you got to do is cut a 960 on the test. FAMU gonna give you a full ride. Me personally, I didn't care if it was HBCU, PWI, overseas, whatever. If it got me out of East Chicago, I was good. So I cut a 1020, I believe. And then FAMU was like, yeah, give me a full ride for architect engineering. And when I told my parents, they pretty much gave me the middle finger, say, hey, we ain't getting you down there, And God rest his soul, but he kind of threw a rift in me and my dad's relationship because he went to the military based on a court order, either go to jail or go to the service. So I think more so he was trying to have me follow in his footsteps so it wouldn't be no burden on him in any way. So I was going to the Air Force because I wasn't staying in East Chicago, and then Navy dude cut a drug deal on the low of my car, gave me $10,000. That's how I got in the Navy. And then I just somehow miraculously took it year by year, and I made it work. And 20 years and 2 days later, I was done. But yeah, that's how everything originally happened.
20 and 2 for 2022?
Yeah, pretty much. 20 and 2 for 2022. Yeah.
You didn't think about it like that, huh?
Nah, I didn't. Only thing I thought of, I was like, it's weird that I'm retiring on Halloween. Because when you think about it, especially from a poet's perspective, Halloween, that's the day you get to dress up and be somebody else. For me, it was like, I've been dressing up, being something else for 20 years. Now I can take this costume off. It's like I could be Joe again. I ain't got to worry about a deployment, put on a uniform, following some crazy rigs that they didn't base upon European standards. So it just felt good. It was like the costume came off, and it's like I could fully be me 100% again. So yeah.
And that's, you know what, you hit on a note. Like, a lot of people don't know that about the military. They think you go, and there's things you got to endure while you're in there. There's regulations that are literally written, dog whistling to target you.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? It's like, this is, you read it, and it's like, this is...
Yeah, they called it up nice to say, get the black people, but you can't say this is specific for black people.
Yeah.
So,
I feel
power in the word game.
For sure. And then, being a wordsmith that you are, you read it and it's like, okay, I know exactly what this says.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's talk about your latest book, right?
Okay.
So Mentally Discharged, right? That is the latest one, right?
Yep.
That's the last one I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like, I don't know, like, let me find out something else came after that, and I'm like, oh well, here we go. All right. So how does your military experience play into that?
Everything that I had to deal with that affected me deeply. Let's just put it out there. Mental health wasn't talked about, coming up. So it's a great thing how that's elevated from when I was a kid to where I'm at now. So I decided that I'm going to take 20 years of everything that I battled, like the serious battles, and put it in a book so it can help somebody else. Of course, when I was first coming in, like I said, mental health wasn't talked about. So some things I went through, it was actually a mental health battle. I just didn't know because I was still inclined that, hey, we're tough, stick it out. Hey, from what your parents used to tell you, big boys don't cry, just shake it off, let it go. And then, the closer I got to retirement, I was like, I need to tell this because I've seen so many kids, like, they're doing COVID deployments. You on the ship for 300 days. You're not even seeing land. And that does something to your mind. It just warps you being within the same wall, seeing the same people. And I just think about when I had the heart attack in '08. I was on the ship, October 26, 2008. They didn't fly me off. They misdiagnosed me. I knew something was wrong. Chest pains, pressure. I tried to commit suicide when we pulled into Hawaii. I had a bottle of Southern Comfort. What's the stuff we used to make Incredible Hulk? Southern Comfort, Hypnotic. And I had one more drink, and I just kept drinking all night. And it was actually a brother from Milwaukee, my boy Thomas Dockery. He had left the room, so I was like, cool. I'm drinking, and honest to God, I was like, I ain't getting up. And I woke up, and it was something about McCain and Obama on the TV because it was near the election. And I was like, damn, I'm still here. So just stuff like that, suicide attempt, me being on the deployment with my friend committed suicide. He left a note with me and another brother name in it, having to talk to NCIS about that. Like, I did something. It hurt, I lost my dad out to sea. My last underway, I lost my father. So it's a lot that just, I know that I'm not the only one who went through it. So I figured to myself, if I'm going to write a book at this point in my life, it needs to be something that could help others. So when they see it, they're like, damn, I'm not the only one. Novels is cool, make-believe stories is cool. But when you tap into that reality that everybody goes through and they can relate to, it's something most special. So that's pretty much why I wrote it.
Yeah, no, like, and I think that's like I can't even state how important that is because we don't know until we open up and actually talk about it how common that is.
Yeah.
Like just being in that space, not common like the experience, but being in that space to where it's like, I don't want to be here no more.
Exactly.
Because in terms of black men, like you said, boys don't cry.
Yeah.
We don't do this. We don't do this. We don't do this. But everybody's telling us how to be a man before we should even be thinking about being a man.
That part.
And so then, what does that do to us? What does that turn us into? I had a realization a while back. I was like, dog, I learned how to be a black man from a white man's perspective.
That's good. It's good and it's sad at the same time.
Because you see, when you look on TV, like I didn't have my dad around, you know what I mean? So you look on TV, and then even if you do have your dad around, all the influences are based off marketing, based off selling something, but based off a perception that isn't us. And then everybody takes this, and then this is what you're supposed to be. So if you are outside of this, you need to hide it away. If you are talented, if you can write, you need to put your notebook underneath your pillow. You need to hide this because this doesn't fit the framework of what you are. And that takes a toll. Like if you look at black men, we have the highest rising suicide rates out of anybody. Yeah,
because I feel like we ain't got nobody to go to. Because it's still ingrained in us. Like if I do go for help, they're going to look at me as weak, you know, whether it be the woman you trying to pursue or just the outside world. But when you said that whole being a black man from a white man's perspective, that just cut me deep. Like, damn, like, I never thought about it like that. So I'm like, damn, like, you hit it on the head. And it's just a sad reality. You know, and I think, you know, with my dad, he was a mortician. And just growing up, seeing dead bodies on the daily, now you got me thinking, like, how many of those black men were in the casket because they didn't have any help, you know? So, yeah, that's wild.
But it's also the other coin of that is when you have these conversations, like with me, like I was telling my guy Evan a little while ago. I was like, look, bro, like I can count on one hand, or I've never had a black man that's older than me that I didn't have a negative experience with. Never.
That's bad.
Right, but then I also have like black men that look up to me, and I try not to do that. So then I see you here, and I have these conversations with you. Just in you taking your power and speaking on these things, you're opening up the world for so much healing within us. Like, yeah, the poetry is cool. Yeah, the spoken word is cool. Yeah, like all that is fire. But when you write a book, I'm gonna sit down and go page to page with that, and I want to go follow up and do another one of these. But like, when you take that and you put that out there, you give permission. You give permission for us to feel. You give permission to, okay, if I don't look like this, because even it still happens today in terms of what black men are supposed to be. Even whether it's, okay, if it's super aggressive or now we need to be super in touch with our feelings, but only if these types of feelings, you know what I mean? We're still being told how we should operate. And then having someone come in and say, no, this is just the real. I like to say 2 things can be true at once, but 3 things can be true at once. All these things can be true, and these are just my experience. And I appreciate that. I think especially when we see specifically black men that are like older than us. Like, you're not that much older than me, but you older than me. You feel me? Like you old enough to be my big brother. And then so seeing somebody sit there and be so open with these, and I can feel it. Like I always say the most important thing in terms of any artist is not just the lyrics, but can you transfer emotion?
True.
And when you do this, like that's it. We can talk about that.
We can talk about that all day.
We can talk about that all day, and I'm sure we will. But I'm sure we will. But also going back to again like black educators and how important they are. Because from that 15 page, you got 11 books, and you also tour. Like, you are in the military, but you are also taking time to pursue what feeds you. What got you into that? What was like, I'm gonna go tour?
I went 2018. It was a turbulent year. My dad died May 21st. My godmother actually, she had cardiac arrest May 14th, and she eventually died months later. And then I went through a divorce, ironically, on Halloween that same year. And I had one homie that I look up as a big brother, Dre Smith. He seen me one day. He came to the gig, and we was just chopping it up. He was like, "You ain't yourself." I said, "I'm good." He said, "No, you ain't. You need to get back to doing what you love." And I hadn't did spoken word in so long, and I had stopped going to therapy. So he told me that somebody who I looked up to a lot during my military career. I said, "Okay, I'm going back to therapy, and then I'm gonna get back into spoken word." And it was December 18th. It was an erotic poetry slam at Three Kings Hookah Lounge.
I remember that. Shout out to Handy.
Yeah. And I went down there. I won $300. Now I'm paying alimony right now. I'm paying on the crib. I'm paying 2 cars. And I'm just like, I'm on Eventbrite, and they had the showcase in Vegas, Christmas Eve. And I prayed to God. I said, "God, if I go up here and do this, let it lead to something." I go up there, there's maybe 12, 13 people in there. But I hit it off so well, they pulled me back on stage. Like, "Yo, you got to do another." And from there, man, everything just went up. And I was just like, I went to, that was 2020. 2019, like I was in Portland. I got a 3-night thing in Seattle, Unapologetically Black. It was just, I kept touring, and then I just started traveling, and I got a new girlfriend. We broke up now, but she was cool. She was a model, so it was like I just upgraded on every level, and it was just like, you know what? I realized that I can't hold my life for anything. I can't, soften my feelings. I'm back in therapy. I'm back doing what I love. Let me spread my message around. So in between my work, hey, I ain't got to do it this weekend. You got a gig, you want me? I'm there, And so I kept pursuing it. I made the world tournament that year, ranked top 25. Still top 25 because I ain't been a world tournament since, But
top quarter,
yeah,
you see it?
Kobe number 24. But yeah, I just went for it all. Like, you can sit on your dreams, or you can actually step up and live in them. So that's what I decided to do.
And at the same time, while being in, and I think that speaks to the perseverance of, when you align with something. Like, what made you, like, you went up there, you said that prayer, and you did it, but, like, when it got hard, what got you, like, no, I'm not giving up on this. I still want to tour. I still want to do this. When it gets tough, what gets you through? Or what do you draw on?
So the first hurdle I had with that was after the world tournament. I had a friend call me. He said, "Hey man, you didn't make final stage." And I was disappointed. I was laying in bed. I was mad. I was like, I don't like losing. I work too hard to get here. He was like, "Look, you finished 24th." He told me something. He said, "When you watch college sports, what do you pay attention to?" It was like the top 25. He said, "You top 25 in the world. Anything else after that, irrelevant." And I was like, that was the first thing that got me through. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes your losses ain't losses. Sometimes it's a bigger win than you can even imagine. And when things get hard, I just look to the spoken word to get me through. Like, I'm thinking, it's January 8th. Tomorrow will be 2 years since I lost my best friend, Trey. And then on the day of his funeral, January 20th, I lost my sister, Michelle, in 2021. And 4 days later, I filmed my Black Joker spoken word piece video. So in the midst of seeing my best friend buried, my sister dying, I used that whole day, January 24th, to film and just release all the anger and emotion I had, in the spoken word, and it actually helped me, And then getting home to bury my sister, and then that night my videographer sent me the video, and it's the best production I've ever done. The most viewed production I've ever done. So in the times where it's dark, it's like spoken word is that crutch, and it just gets me through a lot. And just the fact that, no matter what I'm going through, knowing I can help somebody else, that's what propels me through. Yeah.
I feel a lot. And you spoke to going to therapy, which for myself, it took me years to go to therapy because I viewed it as something that, like, I'm there for everybody.
Exactly.
I'm there for everybody.
Yeah.
Why do I gotta pay, or why do I gotta go to somebody to be there for me? And then it hit me that maybe they just don't have the tools, and that's not their fault.
True.
I'm looking at this wrong. What made you go to therapy? Which I'm like, man, hey, I appreciate you even speaking to that.
Yeah.
Because we need to.
So when I first started going to therapy, it was for pre-marriage counseling in like 2014. And I was like you, I was like, look, I ain't trying to pay nobody else to hear our problems or what we need to go through. Like, this between us. And then as I'm going through marriage, and I went through a deployment while I was married, and I'm like, bro, I really need this therapist. It's like I'm separated from my then wife, and it's different leaving on deployment from when you single and when you married. So we was actually chopping up while I was on deployment. And I just realized how it didn't make everything easier, but it made going through the day-to-day a little easier. Like, okay, I know I got somebody I can go to, gonna be unbiased, can get me through it, send an email, talk to them while I'm in a foreign country, whatever. And then even after I got divorced and Big Dre seen me, it was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna cut this off again. So Wendy Whitmore, then my other therapist, Nancy, both black, because I'm not telling my problems to anybody who's not my skin color. They really got me through a lot. And Nancy, she's the one I currently go to. She's been a big help, And I realized that the best time to go to therapy is when everything's good. Because, it's like, yeah, it's easy to go when stuff is wrong. You want to get fixed. And then when everything's right, a lot of people, especially black people, we incline to, oh, I'm good now, man. Go to the club, do whatever. But, I go to Nancy, we chopped up 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, everything good. And she asked that one question, well, how is this? And you be like, dang. She be like, well, that's good, but we can fine tune this. So I learned the best way to look at therapy is just like a tune up with a car. Hey, you running good, hey, stop and get your tune up. Instead of every whatever 1,000 miles, I get mine every 2 to 3 weeks. So I love it now. I gladly pay for it. There's no problem. That's better investment in stocks, bonds, money market accounts, whatever. So yeah, therapy is dope. It's real dope.
It is. I can tell how bright you feel when you're talking about this. You literally lighter as you're talking. Your energy is literally you light up when you talk about it. Because I feel like. One, you just called me out. I'm like, damn, when I'm good, I'm like, all right, no, for real. It was like, I had a therapist. Look, I have a therapist that I have referred to people that I have stopped seeing because I'm like, I'm good. Am I? Let me go and hit her back up one time. Black lady too.
Yeah.
Because they gonna save us.
Yeah.
Oh man. Damn. All right. Very well. I will correct myself.
Hey, you good. That's what the conversation for, man.
For sure.
Like this Q&A, it helps us just as much as it helps everybody else.
For sure.
Man.
Okay. So, what is? And I don't asking people what their favorite anything is in terms of the work that they're created, but because I feel like anything you write came from a space in you and it holds value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but if there was a line, and you can take your time, because we can edit this part right here, whatever. If there was a line in a poem or something, and not even have to be a poem or a spoken word piece or something that you wrote in a novel, anything, where you're just like, if someone read this, they'll get a better understanding of me. This is me. What would that be?
My poem that I wrote titled "This Is Hard," and it's the poem I spit to actually win San Diego Slam to go to the Worlds. So as poets, I notice a lot of poets to delve into everything going on in the world. Mm-hmm. God forbid a celebrity do something, I've heard a million Kanye poems, I heard a million R. Kelly poems, this celebrity poem, that celebrity poem, easy to talk about police brutality, whatever. And so I wrote a poem about all my flaws and my depression. When I talked about, I remember the one line in that poem, I said I never really bonded with my father until I seen him lying in the casket. And it was crazy because, truth be told, from the FAMU stuff, and I'm gonna just be open, my daddy held the household down, but he couldn't keep that thing in his pants, He had 6 of us, about 6 different women. He just married my mama. He was an active cheater. As I got older, I started to see it. I can't not. He put the food on the table, clothes